20 minutes late.
Go ahead.
You can do the talking at the beginning. You want me to do it? I can do it.
Do you want to get these things going and so should we kick in?
Yeah, you'll kick in.
Okay.
Is he done with the...
Yeah,
You good? Okay.
Yeah, well, hey.
Hey guys, yeah.
Good afternoon and welcome to the official Tech Ed lock note. Okay, a bit flat.
Key lock. Oh, I got
Lock
it.
note.
Yeah,
In
got
last
it right.
session,
No, okay,
we're really going to
cool.
wrap it up.
Who's hungover? Anyone hungover? Oh God, did you guys have a good night last night? Yes, very, extremely.
I'm good to go. I hardly touched anything last night. Hey, so let's kick in and introduce yourself. So I'm Brendan Ford. This is Nick.
Got my name then, didn't you?
Not at all, Nick. You're very important to me. And so Brendan from Provoke and obviously Nick from Microsoft. So today our intention is really to sort of take you through migrating your email from on-premise Exchange to Microsoft's wonderful Exchange online in the cloud. And so Nick and I are going to dog and pony our way through and sort of switch in between talking and demoing, and hopefully give you a bit of a feel for, in some respects, how simple it can be, and give you a bit of an idea of what might be involved in moving your business or your infrastructure or whatever it may be.
Okay, so you probably heard, who attended my session around moving business productivity to the cloud and all the rest of it? Thanks, Mace. I have one fan in the room. There's a couple over there. Good, great. No prizes, sorry. So put your hands up, though. It's great. So really, in that session, I sort of covered off a few things of why you do it. There is still confusion in the market, especially in New Zealand, of why you wouldn't do it. There are a lot of conversations happening around security and privacy. Definitely when you're hosting stuff with Microsoft, we're a massive company, clearly, and we do take security and privacy very, very seriously. This isn't, what we're talking about today isn't mixed in with our consumer offering. We're definitely not mixing business units here. We're not saying, we'll do it for free so long as we can use all your information to search across and index it and all the rest of it. Some other offerings potentially do. There is a lot of, when you look at a cloud service, it is a very vanilla service, and when we talk about levels of customization, a cloud service is not a virtual server hosted, tele-hosted in a data center. This is a vanilla service that you're leveraging the benefits of cohabitating a multi-tenanted environment. When I say multi-tenanted, you are sharing infrastructure with other customers. Thus, you can't go and install your own version of antivirus on the Exchange server. You don't get a management console. You are subscribing to a service. So again, there are some limitations that may be relevant to some customers. Visibility and control. Again, people don't have the visibility. You can't go into that management console and start dismounting storage groups and all the rest of it, as IT admins sometimes like to do. We want to start up the Exchange 2007 server as well. Okay, cool. Yeah, just the 2007. Yep. And obviously data accessibility. So now that I can't walk down the hallway, open my server room and pull out a disk, or plug a USB key into it, into the server, how am I going to get access to that data? So there's all conversations that you have to have before you make the leap into the cloud. But obviously there are significant benefits, and the bottom part of the screen there talks about the great benefits that you get. Global reach. So again, without a VPN, you're able to extend your services that you provide to your end users around the globe. 24/7 supportability, right? Ease of provisioning, and we'll show you how easy it is to set up not only an Exchange environment, but set up users and provision those. Add additional space to your environment. Very, very easy. Allowing your business to be a lot more agile. So instead of going through a whole planning stage around a SharePoint project, within a couple of seconds, you literally got a SharePoint site set up for a couple of dollars, not a couple of $100,000.
Planning is pretty important, though.
Planning is very important.
Planning is important.
And obviously the manageability side of things, being able to manage everything from a web portal in some instances is very, very beneficial.
And sort of a couple of things from old Jeremy's presentation from New Zealand Rugby yesterday. He sort of said in the 8 months since they've been on BPOS, they've had about a 5-minute outage with their mail, and that was really sort of just about a glitch in the matrix. And he was able to log a support call, and it was all taken care for him, and he really didn't have to worry about anything. And when he thinks about security, he sort of really takes the approach of there's a fair chance that Microsoft have got more money to pay security people than what he does or ever will have, and there's a fair chance they've got the ability to have specialists rather than generic people.
So I guess when we talk about Microsoft as well, we're talking about scale. Microsoft aren't going to run a data center here in New Zealand. When we talk about our data centers around the globe, the data centers are run by Microsoft badged employees. So every Microsoft employee in that data center has one of these badges, like I've inherited from my sins. And when we talk about the services provided to New Zealand, with a certain exception or two, they are delivered out of the Singapore data centre. When we talk about that Singapore data centre, all of the N+1 redundancy, all of the backups and everything are retained in that data centre. We do not back up to tape. We do not ship those tapes anywhere else. They're all backed up to disk. We do have a geo-redundant site in Hong Kong, but we don't load balance between them. If we do fail over to Hong Kong, it will be a catastrophic event. So in other words, think tsunami or earthquake or something where Singapore goes offline. So there is a return to operation time frame of some days, some hours, not minutes, to fail over to that data center. I think the return to operation is around 8 hours for email. All right, so we don't want to lose Singapore. That's the key here. And we don't spread the data around the world. So again, if you subscribe based on your delivery address, based on your billing address, if you subscribe in New Zealand, you will get provision to Singapore. You will not be spread across data centers around the globe, and customers from other data centers can't see. Do you know what I mean? You choose your business to be deployed in one data center, and that's it.
You do have a competitor that I know, like someone talked to them about the data, and there was a bit of data in America, and there was a bit of data in Europe.
But they couldn't tell you where it was.
No.
That was beneficial, though.
That's security by obscurity, I think that's the way we refer to that.
Oh, that's quite a cool saying. So today, I guess we're going to be talking about Exchange Online, these primary products: Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, Office Live Meeting, and Office Communications. When I talk about these products today, they are the 2007 products. We have been given a bit of grief about that, but it is important to note that it doesn't matter. The version number is missing off those logos for a reason, and that is you no longer have to worry about the features of the product you're subscribing to. All of a sudden, you're not going to a product feature list, reading it and understanding it, and then worrying about how you're going to deploy it. You're subscribing to a service, so you get a service description for each of those products. And it is important before you jump into the cloud, make sure that you read and understand those service descriptions. The other important document to read is the SLA around those individual services as well. So the service level agreement that you sign up for when you buy these products. And we'll talk about the sign-up process shortly.
I guess with these products, in effect, upgrade behind the scenes. So hot fixes really just get applied, and you kind of get told about it, sort of post. You can read about it, and then really service packs, you'll get notified, and Microsoft will upgrade that. But major upgrades from, in effect, the 2007 stack today to the 2010 stack in the future, you'll have an opportunity to opt in to get all your stuff upgraded. And Microsoft will bear the burden of that cost to do those upgrades as part of the price that you pay.
And again, on top of the service description story, you've got various features that do get improved over time. So again, we're in a continuous cycle here. We're developing a piece of software that sits in the cloud. We don't have to wait 3 years anymore. We can add features. We actually do add features every quarter. So
every 90 days, yeah?
Yep. So it's not when we feel like it. It is every quarter. Understanding that this is an enterprise product, not a consumer product. So again, this is Exchange. This isn't Hotmail with an Exchange badge on it. It is fully functional Exchange in the back end. So 25 gig mailboxes. Everyone in the room know what these products are, what the features are? Great. Active Sync. It's all the good stuff. We are continuously adding other additional features. For example, BlackBerry got added, and that's the full BES, multi-tenanted BES experience as well. So that's contacts, calendar, and email to your BlackBerry device from that Exchange mailbox. But yeah, SharePoint Online, a great opportunity to deliver SharePoint because it's one of those costly products, right, that people just can't justify spending a lot of money on it. And when we think of these products, think of the growth that we're anticipating in the next 6 to 8 months around these products and the features we're going to add. So, for example, SharePoint Online, think that you're going to get additional features, more functional towards the on-premise version of MOS or whatever that Brendan's usually.
SharePoint 2010, yep.
SharePoint 2010. The SharePoint product, obviously, SharePoint 2010, delivering a web application experience for your deskless workers. So in other words, those that occasionally edit a document, allowing them to edit a Word, Excel, OneNote or PowerPoint document.
But we won't focus on this too much because it's an Exchange migration session.
Okay, so we'll kick into it.
Yeah.
So how the services are sold, quite simply, microsoft.com/online. That'll redirect you to a New Zealand site. The billing is in New Zealand dollars. It doesn't include GST because it's billed out of Singapore, so you don't need to worry about GST. Like I said, all currency on the site, if you're in the New Zealand zone, is in New Zealand dollars. You sign in with a live ID. Now, a couple of important things around a live ID. A live ID doesn't mean you have to have a Hotmail address. It can be any email address. Now, if you're an existing Microsoft customer and you've got an EA or a volume license agreement, there's a couple of things. Make sure that you use the live ID that you've got with that existing license agreement to sign up for online services. There is an option now within your EA and within your volume license agreement to have an online services live ID. So again, when you've got the multiple email addresses under your agreement, you can actually assign that in there. The live ID is your billing relationship. So make sure that you can actually receive email to that email address, right? Because if your product's about to expire or if your credit card's bounced or whatever, we send the email to that address and not any of the addresses that you may create later on. And obviously once you sign up with the live ID, you can go into a regular shopping cart experience, either pay for it by credit card, or if you're buying more than $500 New Zealand worth of services a month, you can pay for it by invoice. So we invoice you, you pay the invoice.
So now you can sign up on credit card, do a pilot, and then step up to the invoice.
That's just recently changed, yes, as well. Yep.
So it means, so before when you went down the credit card process, you kind of were stuck with that for a while without creating a whole new account, but one of the enhancements that's come in due to customer feedback is now that you can step up to invoicing. Okay, well, let's just quickly see if I can demo something on this laptop that Nick's currently on.
What were you going to demo?
Oh, I'm going to demo the admin portal.
Oh, the admin portal. All right, that's why you had that browser up, Brendan.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Cool.
We'll kick you over to that.
Champion.
So the admin portal is what you get credentials to once you've signed up and bought the services, right? So forget about the customer portal for billing. You know, that's just billing. Admin portal is where the business side of the experience is.
So I've just got a bit.ly short link that I've created because I struggle to remember some of the longer ones. And basically, so
you're lazy, Brendan, pretty much. That's why I'm doing most of the presentation, right?
I'm productive. So it's a productive world, Nick.
Right.
So basically, what this will drop you into one of the Microsoft pages, and it's going to give you the links to the customer portal and such like. We're interested in the admin portal, and so the admin portal is where you'll go to in effect do your administration side of things.
You're going to go into our one?
I was just going to
go into our one.
But I was going to use this one because I know the address.
But I've got directory sync and everything running. Here you go. Did you change your password?
I did, Nick.
So the one tip here, when you do get the admin experience, first thing you do is set up another user as an administrator. Because if you lose that first administrator password, you're going to regret it because it's going to be a pain in the neck to ring up the help desk and get it reset and all the rest of it. So set up 2 admin accounts.
So what happens with those passwords? Do they change?
Every 90 days.
Yeah, cool.
So passwords think today. Passwords in the cloud will change every 90 days. They're not the same as your Active Directory password. We do synchronize, and we'll talk about the synchronization process shortly. We do synchronize usernames and user accounts to the cloud. We do not do the password hash.
I can just have password as a password though, can't I?
No, that we do enforce a strong password policy, as you would have realised when I told you to change your password. So it is a character, and it's we give you a strength meter when you go to change your password.
Because password would be silly. That's actually how the Twitter CEO got hacked. It was a social hack, yeah.
Really?
His wife and Gmail. So cool. So we're in the admin portal now. So basically, when we hit the admin portal, we sort of have a standard set of tabs that give us a bit of a highlight. Sort of the status of the services up and running, so we can see that we've got some services up and running. If Exchange was having a bit of a problem, we'd see a cross rather than in ticks. So this gives us an overview.
And that's bloody useful as an IT admin, right? Because if email's not working, what do? You generally have to go and check logs and whatnot on an Exchange server. So no longer do you have to worry about that because you're getting an operations manager view of the Exchange service in the cloud. So if you log on here and all the green ticks are showing, then you know it's a problem with your internet connection or client connection setting.
And you can do it from home.
Yeah,
if you've headed home for the
lazy day. Again, right?
No, working outside of hours on call.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Cool. So from the admin portal, so if we just click into users, and Nick's going to talk through the directory sync, but let's have a quick look at this. If you weren't doing it with the directory sync, then I can come in here and easily add users, view users, and such like.
View the users, see how many lazy people are on there.
Well, and so it gives you a bit of a highlight as to whether they've logged in or not, such like, and you can obviously click through and see administrators disabled and such like. I think one thing that I want to spend a little, just a quick sort of call out for is the support that sits in online services. So one of the best and least sung sort of things about online services is the support process. So when I sort of started playing with it about early last year, I logged a number of support requests, and one of them was closed within about 2 minutes, and that was because I was doing something that I probably should have thought through a little bit more. But they were really prompt at coming back and telling me basically the misguided step that I'd taken. Another one took about 3 weeks to get closed, but in that time I probably had about 3 or 4 calls from the US, calling down to gather more information, to follow up, to provide feedback, and then to confirm that resolution of the problem. And I honestly did not expect that level of service from Microsoft specifically with this product, and it's far better than what the competitors doing in the marketplace as well. So you can come in and log service requests yourself through the tool here, track them. There's also an 0800 number that you can do. Pop in here. You can grab the download, different things that you need to download to aid you to get through.
Here's the other thing about service requests. You don't actually have to log a service request if you've got a problem. If you've got a question around the service or you want to buy anything additional, log a service request. The guys on the other end will be very good, and they'll get back to you with the right information or direct you in the right area that you need to go.
And you can log service requests during a trial as well, so you can sign up for a trial and just hammer the service request stuff. So it's kind of good. It's a good way to sort of get things up and going. And also, if there's something that you would like to do with your Exchange side of things that you can't see through the admin tool, I'd kind of encourage you to sort of try logging a service request to get that to change. So what are some of the examples that we've seen of people logging service requests for odd things?
Definitely migration troubles. If they've got, for example, if the sign-in client, again, they're not able to get it running, it doesn't allow them to log in. They log a service request. They get an answer back saying, have you tried this, have you tried this? These are the pass-through proxy authentication settings that you need to enable, etc., etc. So, yeah, very, very useful information.
Cool. And so as we click into service settings, we can see that the 4 products that are available in Microsoft Online Services today, BPOS, so Exchange, SharePoint, Live Meeting, and Communicator. Down the right-hand side, we can see some common actions that we might do around setting up conference rooms and safe centres and those sorts of bits and pieces. So I think when you're looking at this portal, you should be pretty encouraged that it's a pretty easy thing to go through and to work with and basically do your day-to-day job, so that you've got a little bit more time to do some car racing or play some golf.
Right, car racing, cool. And I guess the last tab on the list there is the migration tab, and it's very well documented. Ironically, better documented for Exchange 2003 than 2007, but the concept's the same. Good question. So the question was, why do we offer per license 250 meg of allocated space for SharePoint Online and 25 gig of allocated space for Exchange Online? And the answer really is the fact that we oversubscribe the Exchange space. The Exchange space is on cheaper disk, and SharePoint space is actually allocated. So when you have a SharePoint license, that 250 meg is actually allocated to your business. Whereas when your Exchange mailbox is sitting on a server, we don't allocate 25 gig of space. You're cohabitating in it, and because we're scaling this to millions of mailboxes, we're taking a law of averages across it. So again, that is on the increase. The Exchange space that we gave you increased from 5 gig to 25 gig last year, and I'd say the same will happen with SharePoint Online. Don't quote me on it, but we are looking at reviewing that going forward.
And that 250 meg is obviously multiplied out by the number of users
licenses you have. And also you can buy additional space. Additional space is $4.31 per gig per month.
And you can allocate as much space as you want pretty much to a SharePoint site.
Yep.
Hey, we're on to your demo now, which is directory sync.
We don't actually need the slide, do we?
No, so if we just cut back to the demo machine here.
We'll just go into the machine. So what I've done is I've got a system center hands-on labs that I pinched off someone because I'm, again, lazy. I didn't want to have to install Exchange, and it's actually taken me longer to get it working than it would have if I'd installed Exchange from scratch. But we've basically got an Exchange server here if it responds to me. It's a bit slow. It's running on my poor notebook here. It is really struggling, isn't it? An Exchange server running. The Exchange server, again, when you've got Exchange in your environment, this is actually part of an Exchange 2010 environment as well. There is no migration from Exchange 2010 today, worthwhile noting. But if you do have an Exchange 2007 server sitting in your environment, you can migrate still, right? So if you've got mailboxes that may be sitting on the Exchange 2010 box, but you can still access a 2007 box, that's fine. It's really about the mail routing, outbound and inbound, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The directory sync tool is a man that is crawling. Is a small download. I think it's about 30 meg. The directory synchronization tool does run every 4 hours. It doesn't install on a domain controller, so that's kind of a weird thing. The other weird thing about it, it's a 32-bit application. Now, when you think of why the heck would Microsoft develop a 32-bit application, it's one of those things that we don't see being around for a long time, right? So going forward with online services, you'll have something called Active Directory Federation Services, and anyone attend that session, the ADFS session? Right, so going forward when you're talking about authentication to the cloud, ADFS is the way we're going to go. So think of the 2010 product cycle is going to do that. I don't know what this machine is doing. Demo gods are failing me.
With the Exchange 2007 licensing, you can have a machine license. Is there going to be sort of equivalent to that?
You mean a device license? So with the licensing, it is per mailbox. Right. The only mailboxes we don't charge for are the resource mailboxes, like the meeting rooms, etc., that we allow you to have, conference rooms, etc. So they're free. They've got an autoresponder on it, and obviously you can open up that calendar. We do, again, via service request, allow delegated admin access to mailboxes. So if you've got a shared mailbox or whatever, you can set that up via service request. I think the machine's just completely thumbed its nose at me.
I mean, in those mailboxes, like even if you deactivate the account, they still consume a seat, don't they? Unless you actually delete the mailbox.
Yep. So the moment you remove the license from the account, basically the mailbox content gets removed. The SLA for a mailbox restore is 2 days. So be aware that if you do delete a mailbox by accident, it will take us a considerable amount of time and effort to get it back. We don't charge you for that yet. We reserve, in the end. No kidding. Stop responding.
It's behind the scenes.
Yeah. In the event that we, getting malicious use of the service, we reserve the right to charge. So I know other hosters, Web Central in Australia, they charge $1,000 Australian to do a restore of a mailbox after accidental deletion. Bear in mind our backup, and again that's an important thing to mention with Exchange Online and with SharePoint Online, our backup is retention period is 14 days. We do not back up for archive purpose. There's a different product that allows you to have Exchange hosted archive. We only back up to restore the services if it falls over, right? So we snapshot to disk, as I said earlier, and at the end of the day, oh look, it's not currently licensed either. Yeah, so that's basically it. So we've got an Exchange server here. I don't know why the directory synchronization tool hasn't come up. Oh, there you go. So this is a directory synchronization tool. Now it'll probably error out and tell me that it's already loaded. Basically, what I do is I log in with my online services account, and this domain may get me in trouble with Microsoft because TechEd's a licensed or a copyrighted name, apparently, trademark name. So
domain name squatting's not a bad thing,
isn't it? So that will go away to the internet. That will try and log me into the online services. If again it can see the internet, it's taking a bit of time there. And it will basically log me in to my online services account, the admin center, as you saw earlier. Now that admin center will give me a directory synchronization health check as well. It is quite good in the fact that it will also tell me if there are errors in the directory sync. My advice to you is make sure your Active Directory, there you go. Great.
So just while Nick's typing it, so some things that we have done prior to this demo is we've actually gone through and provisioned obviously the online services account, and we've gone through the process of validating teched.geek.nz into online services so it knows it exists and such like.
And obviously the Active Directory credentials are important as well, so you need to be an enterprise admin to be able to use this directory synchronization tool, right? So you click Next. Should log me into the domain controller, and then away we go. Now, like I said earlier, this tool does run every 4 hours. So if you make a change in your Active Directory, it will synchronize every 4 hours on schedule. You can increase that by a registry key change, so you can get it to synchronize every hour or whatever you want. Make sure that you are aware also if you delete a mailbox or delete a user account out of your Active Directory on-premise, it will wipe it out of online services straight away, right? So again, we talk about that restoration process taking about 2 days. All security groups and distribution lists are replicated to online services as distribution lists, right? If you want to convert them back to security groups, log a service request, give them the name of the security group that you want to have converted from a DL to a security group, and away you go. So as you can see there, quite painless. It'll synchronize. It'll tell me, directing me there to go to the admin center and verify that the directory sync is happening. Like I said, I've set up another one, and I actually shut down the DC, and it's sending me an email every 4 hours saying, your DC's down, please check your system.
And you get a little red arrow saying directory sync
is down. A little
red cross rather is down inside the admin tool.
Correct. So when we step into the email, question?
The question on that side, what happens if for some reason some objects disappear from the cloud? Will that work downward?
It doesn't synchronize back. It's a one-way sync. The other thing you can do, and you probably saw that in the admin console, you may have missed it, is you can actually set up users that only exist in the cloud, and it won't get overwritten by the AD sync. The one thing that I will call out, and it happened to a customer in Singapore, the services team or their own IT team said, "Great, we'll set up the Singapore branch of our office, synchronize the AD to the cloud, moved 150 or 180 mailboxes to the cloud, and that was great. And they were running for 3 months, and they're happy as Larry. And then the Hong Kong IT guys said, "Oh yeah, well we'll get our guys into the cloud as well." 2 different ADs. They ran their DSync against the same online services account. What happened? Overwrote it. So it blew away those 150 accounts that existed and overwrote it with the other sync. So one directory sync relationship per account, right? So make sure that you're, and that's one of the main limitations, and that's why we want to move towards ADFS as soon as possible. Question? Right, so we should have actually stepped into that, shouldn't we? So I'll show you how that looks. So, and it's sort of part of what I'm going to talk about next, but if we look into the users tab on the admin center, and we'll go to user list, I've got disabled users. So when directory sync runs, it will synchronize all user accounts to the cloud automatically as a disabled user. So these users don't have a license applied to them, and they don't have an active mailbox in the cloud. They're disabled, right? And there's a couple of reasons for that. That means, so in terms of coexistence for email, and I'll switch back to this other one. In the time of coexistence, your email will always land on your on-premise server, right? So you're not going to go directly to the cloud. You're not going to redirect your MX record. You're going to go to the on-premise server, and if you've moved a mailbox to the cloud, the forwarder will be placed on the on-premise user account. Then the mail gets forwarded to the cloud. If you notice here, in the Microsoft, have I got a pointer on this? No, I haven't. Oh, yeah, I have. So if we look at Microsoft Online, you'll see that the SMTP alias here is joe@companyx.microsoftonline.com. The reason for that is we're able to then route the mail for that user, if it's not in an authoritative state, if it's non-authoritative, route it back through the MX record to the on-premise users, right? If an on-premise user wants to send to a mailbox user in the cloud, it uses that forwarder, that companyx.microsoftonline.com SMTP alias to forward it up to the cloud. That person replies to it, replies via the MX record back to the on-premise server. Does that make sense, kind of? It's like it's a fudge, basically, until you get into everyone into the cloud. So email coexistence is quite easy. As I said before, the sign-in tool at the moment, and Brendan will cover that off in a second, the sign-in tool is how you authenticate to the cloud. ADFS is where we want to end up. There are some significant benefits about using the sign-in tool, and Brendan will cover that off. So the migration tool is the second tool, right? Now, this migration tool, we can potentially go into if I'm lucky. Let me find it. So there's the migration console. I've installed it ahead of time. See if my poor croaky old machine has sped up somewhat. The migration tool is basically there to migrate mailbox content. Now, as you can see here, it's asking me to log into the online services again.
So this is probably the most efficient way to migrate your on-premise Exchange up into the cloud. A second option, which is probably not recommended, is you could basically just create all the mailboxes and just connect Outlook straight to the cloud, and Outlook would kind of deal with it, but very slow.
Yep. I mean, when we're looking at the migration tool, think about a gig an hour for if you've got a good connection, right, per instance. So we actually throttle it on the back end. We throttle it down to 2 gig an hour per instance of the mailbox tool using our transporter. So this tool addresses the transporter directly. And what I can do here, so it's given me my Microsoft Exchange environment. As you can see here, it's loading up what objects it can currently see from the Exchange environment. So it's quite easy, really. I can sit there, I can have a look at the mailboxes. Now, this is where you need to skip back to the Exchange server. And where was it? You can actually see what mailbox is sitting on what server. And that's important as well. I can't remember which. Anyway, so because I've got multiple servers in the environment, I've got an Exchange 2007 server and I've got an Exchange 2010 server. It is important to know where your mailbox is actually residing, what storage group it's residing on, etc., etc. So you don't want to remotely migrate a mailbox sitting on a remote Exchange server down in Invercargill when you're sitting in Auckland using the migration tool on a server in Auckland. You're better off installing the migration tool on the server that's in Invercargill. Yep, so we support, was it 2000? I think we support Exchange 2000, 2003 and 2007. So, as I said, you want to find out, where the mailbox is. I've had a couple of failures here because I've had the mailbox server off. So whatever mailbox server that mailbox was sitting on, it's been turned off at the time. I can also remove the forwarding. I've got an option there to remove the forwarding from that mailbox as well. That looks gnarly, doesn't it? Federated email system mailbox. Cool.
You mentioned it was vanilla services we're getting, so what can't you do with your online?
So you can't install any programs that would, again, it's a remote Exchange server, so access is via Exchange Web Services or RPC over HTTPS. We do allow SMTP and POP access via service requests. So again, log a service request. We can enable secure SMTP access to those mailboxes if you wish. IMAP's on the way. Again, it's going to be one of the released exception access methods in the future, but you cannot address that Exchange server using the MAPI protocol. You can't install anything on the Exchange server. So again, I've seen a customer out there that had a product called Exclaimer, which was a signature program running on their Exchange server. That wouldn't work with online services. So anything client side, that's fine because you're still using Outlook, you're still using Entourage, and I guess I haven't covered the clients that are supported. So again, Entourage, Snow Leopard's mail client for Apple Mac, anything using ActiveSync, and Outlook 2003, 2007, 2010. So again, we support journaling, so we can turn on journaling within the cloud, so within online services. And again, that was a service improvement that was released last year. You'll have to log a service request to allow that. Yeah. You've mucked around with this tool, haven't you?
No, I haven't touched. I haven't broken anything today.
Oh, no, I'm saying you've played with it before, though.
Played with it, yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing here, you'll notice that you've got an ability to connect to a POP or IMAP service as well. So this migration tool, free from Microsoft, does migrate from an existing POP or IMAP service, whether you're using Mail, Daemon, or anything silly like that. So public folders aren't supported within Exchange Online. That's another limitation of online services. It was in for the next version, and then it wasn't, and then it was, and then it wasn't, and now it's not. So again, there's a lot of toing and froing over public folders. I've been an Exchange engineer for a number of years now, and at the end of the day, public folders have been wanting to be killed since Exchange 5.5. So, you know, public folders, we have a great white paper on where to migrate public folders to and how to deal with that. A lot of customers I see are actually using a shared mailbox as a stopgap for that public folder omission from Exchange Online. SharePoint should really be the way that you store stuff, right, Brendan? That was your sales pitch opportunity.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to stop talking and suggest
Okay,
SharePoint.
thanks.
So obviously you get a bit more flexibility with what you can actually do with a document library versus a public folder.
Right. At the end of the day, this tool is very basic. I can set the number of process threads. You know, it's set to 10 by default, but I can crank that up if I've got a grunty machine. You can run multiple instances of this migration tool. So again, I can actually run another instance of this on the same machine. Again, you've just got to monitor the machine that you're running it on. It is running on the Exchange server now. So again, it's unlike the directory sync tool, which won't run under domain controller. It will run on an Exchange server, this tool. Great tool, works well. Any questions about mailbox migration or the content migration?
There are also some third-party tools that you can go and buy if you've got specialist sort of needs. So if you're moving Lotus Notes to Exchange Online, for example, one product is Binary Tree. They seem to be kind of the product that's getting a lot of support at the moment. I know Quest do some stuff as well.
2 questions. Yep. So, you know, you can do that. So when I talk to a number of customers, some of them are actually having child domains. So again, within online services, and we had the it was on here, wasn't it? Yep, it was. I'll show you the domain side of things. Where was the admin portal?
Probably another browser.
There you go. So when we go into the domains, and this is something that we didn't cover at the beginning, you can register multiple domains. You can have up to 150 domains I've seen people have. So again, those are SMTP addresses. I've also set up a child domain, so you can have x.techhead.geek.nz as a child domain and have that company routing to that child domain, so they're having that as their email address.
And that doesn't need to come through your on-premise Exchange
server. That's when you can redirect that MX record straight to the cloud for that child domain. But when we talk about using that overarching domain, you will always have to have coexistence. So until you get everyone into the cloud, you'll have some on-premise and some in the cloud.
And it's not necessarily recommended to stay in that migration mode?
No, not really, because, I mean, what's the point? You're not getting all the filtering benefits of online services, because you're really having to filter the spam before it hits your Exchange server. And if it hits your Exchange server first, then goes to the cloud, that's when the filtering happens.
And you're going to see a step up in bandwidth as well, because you're kind of doing things twice.
The other thing I'll call out is Exchange 2010 does address that. So with the release of Exchange 2010 online next year, you'll be able to have a stretched deployment of Exchange server. So having a stretched DAG, you know, having server roles from your on-premise Exchange server sitting in the cloud. But generally, when that's released, we'll talk more about that. But that's when you get the opportunity to actually have that mix and match. You know, some mailboxes in the cloud and some on-premise. This is really just about a cloud-only solution. It's not really long-term coexistence.
Cool. So we'll just no, leave it there.
Yeah, you want to? Oh shit! Sorry.
We're already. Yeah,
Sorry, Brendan.
It's fine.
Don't hurt me.
Violence begins at home. So basically, what I'm going to quickly run through is the sign-in tool. And so in effect, there's a couple of ways that you can get the sign-in tool. One of the easiest ones is to actually just sort of head to the My Company portal, and that basically drops you onto a page here, and we have an opportunity to download the sign-in tool or to basically to click through to the web. The sign-in tool does a couple of different things. So basically, when we get here, we get a pretty vanilla interface that most people should be able to use, good. Basically just put in your credentials. And so the sign tool is just going to shoot away, and hopefully I got my password correct.
What is it doing here, Brendan? What is it actually checking for?
Well, it's so it's actually making sure that I've actually got all my browsers closed, for example.
So it does go away and check the settings of the applications that you're configuring for the cloud. So when we talk about the applications,
yep.
it's Internet Explorer, it's Outlook, it's Live Meeting, and it's the Communicator client if you've selected those services. And when it comes into the application,
so basically, one of the big pluses with the sign-in tool is that basically when you deploy it onto a desktop and you sign in for the first time, it's going to give you the opportunity to configure the applications or the things that you have locally. So today, right here, we're seeing Outlook and Live Meeting. If my account had OCS enabled for it, it's obviously disabled. Nick didn't give me that privilege.
No.
Then we'd also see OCS in here. So that means that you don't have to run around every desktop and configure all these tools to point to the cloud. And so is this good to configure? It's not going to wreck anything on your machine?
Absolutely it will, but that's right, it'll back up. So that when I go configure applications, it will actually make a backup of your existing Outlook profile. And people go, well, why would you care? Well, you've got to care because there's one file. And anyone know, and I wish I had a prize. Do we have a prize? We don't have any prizes.
We don't.
I'll buy you a beer afterwards, eh? How about that?
And the finished drinks.
And the finished drinks, which are free anyway.
Sentiment. It's the sentiment.
Why would you want to back up the profile that the user's currently using for your on-premise Exchange server? There's one file that's an IT admin's nightmare. In 2K, yeah, great. Okay, I'll buy you beers. Easy. But that stores the contact cache for the Outlook client. So it's a pain in the ass of a file if you end up losing it. Question? No. Stretching. Oh.
Cool. So basically it's gone away, it's configured Outlook, it's configured Live Meeting, and also it's got my link here to go away to head to in effect, our portal place, which is going to have a list of all my SharePoint sites if Nick actually had have configured that, and also from
here... You're the SharePoint guy, Brendan. I gave you the login. You've had a week to have a play around.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, but this is an Exchange migration presentation, not a SharePoint presentation, so but valid. And obviously I can get here and just log into OWA, and I'm away and racing. And one of the great things is, I guess, if you're trying to find the positives of the silver linings in the sign-in tool, is that a person gets the same experience whether they're sitting on your network or they're on the road. So they've got kind of one tool that's going to launch these different bits and bobs here.
The sign-in tool does a couple other funky things. It manages the SSL cert, which expires every 3.5 days. Microsoft Online Services being ultra secure, the only access you get to the data center is over SSL, and it's an application-specific SSL cert. Outlook web access will expire or will time out every 15 minutes without the sign-in tool. If you keep the sign-in tool, it'll keep you signed in. The other thing you need the sign-in tool is for SharePoint as well. If you log into SharePoint, every time you log in, it will prompt you for your credentials without the sign-in tool.
It's pretty painful.
Yep, pretty painful. Outlook 2010 does work rather well without the sign-in tool, though. Yep. So manual settings. So again, ActiveSync manual settings are published on the net. Actually, are they on the company portal?
So they're on my little special cheap lazy link. So you can basically just shoot down here, and we've got our bits and bobs for mobile devices.
You know, everything about online services is very, very, very well documented. Deploybpos.com is actually a good site that I could show you.
The desire with online services is to enable people to get up there relatively easy and give them the documentation they need. I think it's probably the bigger task is doing some change management inside your organisation so people understand it's coming. There was a question somewhere, yeah? Two-factor authentication.
Coming in wave 14, which is next year. So we are going to address two-factor authentication in wave 14.
What sort of size organisations do you see as practical for doing this type of migration over the internet?
Good point. Anyone, you know.
So, sort of.
Yeah.
I think sort of over 5 or over 20. What's the? So this is BPOS standard, but there's also BPOS dedicated.
Oh yeah, that's sort of not available in New Zealand.
But BPOS dedicated.
Yeah, you've thrown it out there. I'm going to have to dig myself out of that hole.
But BPOS dedicated. What sort of seat number?
BPOS dedicated is above 5,000 seats, but
5,000
it's a completely different product really at the end of the day. But yeah, migration. So the other migration options are Migration Wiz. MigrationWiz.com is a very good tool to allow you to do a long-term migration. So it sort of has long-term coexistence in mind. It does pull all your email gradually to the cloud over a period of time, and then you can flick users off as their mailbox content populates. It does populate newest to oldest, which is quite a novel way of migrating a mailbox.
I think also if you're thinking about if you've got an organisation that's geographically separated across the country or across the world, and you've got users across all the centres, then I think online services makes a heap of sense. If you've got 1,000 people in one office sending email to themselves to each other constantly for the whole day,
50 meg attachments,
50 meg attachments, for example, then I think you'd probably need to think about it a little bit more, and you'd need to sort of work through probably some of the challenges that you'd see there in that scenario.
But then when you've got Exchange 2010 next year, you'll be able to have a bit of a mix, so it won't be an all or nothing scenario. You know, think of this as the first cab off the rank, real cheap, $8 per user per month for a 25 gig mailbox.
$8.64.
I was
Details,
generalising.
please.
I'll call it $9 then, but there's no GST though. So it's $8.62 per user per month for a 25 gig mailbox with filtering. A mate of mine, Jesse, runs a company called SMX, and they gouge people for filtering. $6.95, I think it is. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So that's all done by the admin portal. I think Brendan can.
You talk, I'll click.
So the admin portal, definitely you add whitelist, blacklist. If you've got any additional filtering rules, so again, if you've got a mail marshal server on premise, log a service request with a rule request, and we'll make the changes in the back end. But really, from the admin perspective, whitelist and blacklist, that's all you're managing, right? And it is forefront. So in the back end, it is the full forefront product that we usually charge. I think we charge almost $4 per user per month for that retail. The one thing, while we've still got the sign-in tool fresh in our mind, that's one of the things that kills the terminal server experience. So if you've got a terminal server environment and you're publishing, why would you publish Outlook as an application, or have Outlook as part of the published desktop in a terminal server environment? The sign-in tool will not work on a terminal server environment. That includes Citrix. And really, at the end of the day, like I said, the experience is really degraded if you don't use that sign-in client.
Cool. And so here goes the inside the Exchange Online tab, safe senders, block senders.
So I can click on that, and I can add a new safe sender. Comes up like that, and I can add IP address range, domain name, etc., etc.
Cool.
Are you thirsty, Brendan?
I've got a refreshing water here.
All right, I'll swing up beer.
Okay.
So learn more. Everyone in the room, go away, sign up for go away, full stop. No, kidding. Go away, sign up for a free 30-day trial. You can get it extended. You can get it extended 3 times. Just log a service request again and say, please, can I extend my trial? I'm really seriously looking at this. If you're a Microsoft partner, you get a perpetual demo account for free for a year. So again, sign up to the sign into online services, log a service request, say, I'm a Microsoft partner, here's my partner ID, and away you go. You also get 250 seats internally to use for your own internal systems for free, as well as a Microsoft partner. We're very, very generous. But yeah, like I said, well-documented Technic blogs. Really, there's a heap of information on the team blog for Technic. Yeah, Matt.
Nick, can you just clarify, starting from a trial account and then going to a production account, and I think just covering that point about what, the trial includes default.
Right, yeah, so good point. So the question was, what do I get in a trial? The trial is either for the Desktop Worker Suite, which is the Outlook Web Access only experience and the SharePoint read-only experience, or the full BPOS suite, which includes all 4 products. So you can actually do a trial of just Exchange Online. But as you saw from Brendan's sign-in client, you can disable Communicator across the organisation. If the Communicator product isn't installed, it will not show it under the sign-in tool. Unfortunately, the products that you're licensed for will show under the sign-in tool. So if you do go and buy licenses and you only want Exchange, then just buy the Exchange piece.
And just to clarify, full BPOS, you can buy the products individually, obviously. Deskless worker, you get about a 512 meg mailbox.
Yep.
OWA access only, no active sync access.
No active sync, no BlackBerry access. Well,
And
that was a lie actually, because I've seen someone do that, have a desktop with BlackBerry connectivity, but anyway. So you've got to have an Exchange. Again, when you're talking about buying additional services as well, the BlackBerry service and the SharePoint space, you've got to have an existing service that pertains to that service, right? So I've got to have an Exchange Online mailbox purchased under the customer portal to add the BlackBerry service to that. Same with SharePoint. I've got to have a SharePoint license to add additional storage to that SharePoint license. License, by the way, is 12 months, billed monthly. No one asked that question, but that's right.
And there's a little checkbox that says auto-renew, by the way, so just be aware of that if you buy it 1 year.
You can't mess it up. Right.
Well, it just automatically renews.
Yeah.
And maybe if you don't want to, then...
There's a Mac supported sign-in client, yep. So it configures Entourage and it configures a live meetings, a web client. Communicator is the only thing that doesn't get supported on the Mac. So when you're talking about Mac users, it makes more sense just to deliver SharePoint and Exchange Online. But by the time you add those 2 products together, you may as well buy the full suite anyway. But the Mac client is definitely supported. So when we say supported, we mean if you log a service request and you've got a problem with it, we'll support it. So it's not an afterthought.
So I'm just quickly logging into the customer portal.
Cool. Was it question note? Yeah, so I mean, when a user leaves your environment, you can add that user's alias to another mailbox if you want to keep getting mail from them. Do you know what I mean? Like if a person leaves, you keep getting mail for them because you can have multiple aliases per mailbox. But definitely once that person leaves, back their mailbox up to a PST file and remove the license from the account. No, not really. There are a couple of tools out there. One of them is BPOS Commander, and was it BPOS Rocks? No. Yeah, there's a couple of tools out there that help you manage BPOS accounts, but none to do what you're saying.
There's some PowerShell access. You can do some PowerShell stuff.
So yep, PowerShell's fully turned on and online. So if you need to do a bulk user activation or bulk password reset, so again, resetting multiple user accounts to, multiple user accounts, activating multiple user accounts, you can do it via PowerShell or the admin console. I think you get 250 user accounts per page in the admin console. So again, you can check a box to select the whole list of users and do a bulk setting change on them.
Because hey, so just really quickly, this is the customer portal, and this is the subscriptions page where you can basically come in, and so this is an active account. Oh, damn, good question. And you're meant to be doing that automatically.
Am I?
Automatically. Hey, so this is the customer portal and the subscription page where you can come in and manage the different subscriptions that you've got and add and remove stuff and such like. You can mouse over things to see kind of where the subscription is at, when it starts and ends. If I had the ability, also in this drop down here, would be able to add BlackBerry services to the account and such like, and go from there. So the customer portal is pretty easy to get into.
I think the beer's calling my name.
Well, and I think we're done pretty much. So
yeah. Migration back, you'd probably have to go. So there's no Microsoft tool to migrate you back yet. But again, like I said, 2010 Exchange changes that, right? So watch this space. If you're thinking of chopping and changing, why would you? Because once you're in the cloud, you'd love it so much you'd stay there. Any other questions?
So there's definitely third-party tools.
Yep, Exchange Web Services is the way to go. And there's an Exchange Online Developers Guide, a SharePoint Online Developers Guide specifically documented in Microsoft's websites.
Cool.
I'll be here afterwards. I'll see you at the bar. Thanks.
Champion, thank you.
See you later.